Hey, what's going on? E. Jones, bottom to the top sports, 98.9, Chucktown, ESPN radio. It's really good.
Black Elvis, we're in the building. Another Sunday fun day, feeling good. A little early this morning, but feeling pretty good. How you feeling this morning, eh?
I feel good, man. Let me ask you a question, Al. I know you was traveling around the country. I know you getting stuff done. Before we get into the sports thing, man, what about that outage the other day, man? It was crazy, man. You was trying to get across the country, trying to get back home, get back to it. Glad you made it back safe, man. It must have been crazy trying to get out and move out and about and around. People traveling back and forth trying to get to the Olympics. It's crazy outside, man. What's going on, Al?
Oh, man, listen, man. Them airports was a movie.
Documented to the people, and just for people who don't know, the Black Elvis is a world traveler. Sometimes he like to get it out and about, and might be at Summer League, he might be at the World Series, he might be at Super Bowl, and sometimes you might just have to get off his feet and take a vacation. And L, you was enjoying yourself, just rolling around and telling people where you were, man, and what happened.
South Beach, no sleep, man. Really nice event, man. Got a chance to kick back. We always working, and they always say it's got to be balance in everything. So if you're gonna work hard, you got to play hard, right? That's what they say.
I don't know about that. I don't know how to play, but I know how to work. But I agree with you. I know that you do have to make some time for yourself and kick back. And I need to start taking that advice, L, because I don't make much time to relax.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, you get one life to live, man. So you better find the time.
You know what, L? I gotta take that advice, man. And so you're coming back from South Beach and you're trying to get back, and what happened, man?
I get to the airport and I'm walking up and it's a movie. I'm like, wait, first of all these people, there's no way I'm making my flight. I look at that. Then I get on the line and they're like, everything is canceled. Everything's pushed back. And, thank God, I was okay, but there was people who, didn't have no bread, who was kind of
Oh,
stranded in a sense because they're like, what do you mean I can't get on this flight? I gotta get home. And I mean, some of these airlines was really trying to be accommodating because they was putting people up in hotels. But the bottom line was, everybody was blaming the actual airlines when it was just a glitch in the computer, whether it was hacked, whatever happened, it really was out of their hands. But it is what it is. We all want to blame somebody because we feel of cause and effect, right?
well, L, I just want to say this, man. This is not so. First of all, I'm excited that you're back. I'm excited that you're on the airwaves this Sunday, and I'm excited at the fact that we get to come back and connect with our listeners and the people who support us. We appreciate you. Continue to like, follow, comment, subscribe, YouTube, Instagram, all the social media platforms. Um, there was a big happening in our country, and I'd be remiss not to talk about the fact that your guy Joe Biden stepped down, man. What you think about it?
I was kind of shocked. I thought it came out of nowhere. I thought he was getting ready for this fight and to go up against Trump. And I don't know. I guess he gracefully bowed out. And then what's crazy is, more people was looking at it because I got some comments from some people how they was happy Harris was about to step up because they didn't feel that Biden was sued. And then she steps down. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I can't call it, but we're in a funny time right now in this world.
Uh, just to be clear, the views expressed on this show is the views of the Black Elvis, myself, Eric Jones, and Bottom to the Top Sports, not the views of ESPN Radio or Kirkland. So I want to say this: I'm not going to share my political views or who I think should win or who I believe should be the candidate, whatever the case may be. But what I will say is this: when it comes down to Joe Biden and Trump, for that matter, I think what the people are genuinely saying are these some older gentlemen these guys are a little bit older in the tooth or longer in the tooth than they are. They've had their run, and I would say that it's safe to say that Trump is a little more sharper in his older age, and Joe's got him by a few years. I believe Joe is 83 and Trump maybe 78. But at 78 years old, are you really fit to run a country? How many good years do you have left? At 83 years old, I think Joe made the right move. He didn't show well at the debate, and that was obvious, and that's not my opinion. I think that's just the court of public opinion. And I think he did the right thing in terms of us as a country and somebody who could potentially be leading us, and say, you know what, he's not the best man for the job. He's just recently coming off of COVID. And I think what happened was you have the debate, and then you have the mishap with him, you know, misspeaking the vice president's name, and then you catch COVID. And those three series of events in a short period of time gave him some chance to reflect and meet with his family and his cabinet and be able to say, you know what, uh, the party doesn't deserve this version of me to try and go and represent it and actually go up against Trump. And I think the American people just want the best candidate. And so many times in our history, what happens to us is that we're just looking for the best candidate, and people will go across political lines if they feel like the views of a candidate of another party are serving their interest. And too many times people just are voting for the lesser of two evils. And I think that is what happens sometimes. Maybe not in this case, but I salute
That is
Joe.
the case. AE, that is this case.
Well, again, I said that I would not express our political views. I'm just saying in general. But I just think it's good and it's important for us as people who have a voice to just be able to touch on things outside of sports sometimes, just so people are aware. And there may be some people who are going to work 24/7, some people who don't turn on the news. There may be some people who don't know. So that's your update on what's happening in our country. And we'll shift back into sports.
Yes, yes. How you feeling about this whole USA team?
Not good.
Mm,
Not good.
mm.
The fact that we are not in the lead from wire to wire at every game and winning by 15 plus points, very troubling to me. I feel like we're playing, when I say we, I'm talking about the United States men's basketball team. And I'll get to the women in a second. Well, let's actually start with the women, because the men's is a lot to unpack.
Okay.
The women, I think there's still a bigger gap with respect to the women's game and the men's game. The men have lost, dating back to the game against Argentina in more recent history, when we did not win the gold medal. Um, Not sure what year that was, but I think that we're seeing it. We're seeing the fact that the gap is being closed. But the women's, the margin of victory is there. The international game is caught up, but not enough to dethrone the United States. And I don't think that'll actually happen this year either. I think it'll be a breeze. I think they'll win the gold medal, and I'm predicting the average margin of victory will be 25. I think we have the players, the coaching staff, um, and the overall talent level to be able to handle that. So they had this great idea, and it's in the middle of the WNBA season, so they had to do something, and I thought it was an awesome idea to put this year's Olympic team against the WNBA All-Stars who are not on the Olympic team. What does that do? It gives the WNBA players who didn't make it, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Abumake and some other players, the chance to really put their skills up against the test in front of a sellout crowd in Phoenix, and put on a real great show for the WNBA. They go up and they play, and USA basketball team is playing well, and they're in the lead. And out of nowhere, Cheryl Miller challenges Abumake at halftime, and whoa, 34 points. She hangs on her head, and the the WNBA team wins by 10 plus points, going away. And USA Basketball, before they even get to the Olympics, sees their first challenge and they take a L against obviously peers from the league. But dare I say, the WNBA team played with more of a sense of urgency in the second half, at least. And you could see their hunger, and you could see they had something to prove. And some of those ladies felt like they may have gotten slighted. And what happens? The WNBA walks away with the victory, and it wasn't like it was a surprise to many. That was a
Mm-mm.
formidable team. And what did you take away from that game, El?
I mean, I thought it was solid
Okay,
overall. I mean, I don't have too much of a comment. I'm waiting to get to the men.
okay.
Hmm.
So I'll leave with this thought on the women's game. I believe that the WNBA basketball as a whole is in a space that people have been pushing, and they have been talking about empowerment and the women's game, and let's go out and see them, and let's bring attention to it. And then you saw all of that energy with Caitlin Clark, and they just want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they feel like the women's game is underrated and undervalued. And guess what? Somebody throws in $2 billion, and now it puts the women's game in the forefront. And that was prior to the WNBA All-Star game. And lo and behold, now the women, with this new collective bargaining agreement, um, with this new money that's been infused in the league, and that was obviously a TV deal that they got. Now you got Caitlin Clark, you got eyeballs, you got Angel Reese, you got the rivalry, you got all of these budding superstars, you got Asia Wilson, you got uh, a whole bunch of ladies who are carrying the torch for the league, and it's alive and well. And I'm interested to see what the salaries are going to be. I'm interested to see where the league is going to go from here. I think it's going to hit in good hands. I think it's healthy. It's lasted over 20 years, and I think it's on the rise. And we're going to see some interesting storylines play out.
Hmm.
So let's go to USA Basketball men's.
Yes.
Um, I just feel like you had these leaders in Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, in Michael Jordan for the Dream Team. And I'm only pointing out the Dream Team because that was the people, well, that was a team that everybody was comparing this USA team to. Let's first dispel that. It's not even close. It's not close. I get the comparison from the standpoint that these are at least most of the best players in the NBA. I feel like a few people are left off the roster, Jaylen Brown, um,
Mhm.
but it's not close. Those guys were icons of the game. They were legends of the game. They are legends of the game. And there was fear struck in the heart of the international players. I think it's the opposite now. I think people are waiting for the USA to come around the corner, and they're swinging first.
Mhm.
There is no fear. There isn't as much of a talent gap, and there isn't the psychological edge. So when you don't go into the game with those three factors, you better pack a lunch, because these players aren't scared of you. They aren't. They play against you in the NBA on a consistent basis, and psychologically, they've played against you in high school oftentimes, because these international players are coming over in high school. They played against you in college, and now they're playing against you in the NBA. What's up? My locker's right next to yours. Let's do it. Toss up the ball. I think we can get y'all.
Mm.
What say
Hey,
you, Al?
hey, it's just so crazy when you step back and look at the game, though. You know, when you talk about that first dream team, like it was just such a gap between
Mm-hmm.
the US and everyone else. And now when you step back and you look at it, you can truly see that everyone else is starting to catch up now.
They've caught up. It's not starting to. They've caught up.
Yeah, so especially when you look at the draft and you got, out of the first five, what was it, two kids from France and another kid. I mean, these international kids are starting to really not just take over the league, but they're trying to take over the actual sport.
I mean, just think about the MVP race. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Obviously,
Luka,
Embiid is playing with the United States, but he's from Cameroon. You got Giannis. Those are you got
Joker.
yeah, you got the Joker. You got I mean, these are three guys. Luca.
Hmm.
So we're taking out Devin Booker, LeBron, and Anthony Edwards. Those are guys who are leading vote getters for the MVP. So the gap is closed. The international players here, and they're here to stay. And I think globally that's good for the game. As a fan and as a resident of the United States, obviously I loved the dominance that we had, and I feel like it's first of all from New York, so it's the city's game, and we were the mecca of basketball at one time, in terms of uh, our city having the best players, and I think that has since left us. If you
Mm.
go historically over the history of basketball, I think the best players have come out of New York. But now, if we're talking about the best young talent, New York does not own that title anymore.
Mm.
Just
Mm.
being honest.
Yeah.
And now globally, you might say that we got the best talent overall, just because there's so many. We're so heavily populated in the United States, and there's so many kids that play basketball. But the gap is closing in terms of the best players at the top and the people who are getting drafted, because these franchises want the best and they're not concerned about where you're coming from. Can you put the ball in the basket? Can you put butts in the seats? Can you bring me a championship? That's what these owners are looking at.
That's what they care about.
You know,
Hmm.
this is what it comes down to. And
Hmm.
and Al Horford and Porzingis, those guys were championship players and they were major contributors.
Hmm.
So um that leads me to another point, Al.
Hmm.
When you look at the NBA as a whole, the league is very healthy and it's in a great place. Guys are making more money than they've ever made. And now there's some changing of the guard with respect to um, what we're used to in terms of NBA games on TNT. And some of those broadcasters will shift, and we'll hear a lot of the same voices. Now, we're going to see the NBA on Fox. We're going to see the NBA on Amazon Prime, and the NBA on TNT, inside the NBA with Kenny, Shaq, and Ernie Johnson and Charles Barkley. That's going to get phased out after this year. How do you feel about that?
I feel that's crazy. I mean, for one, it's taking away jobs, but I mean, come on. These guys have built their name and then built their reputation in this industry, and it's like, they're about to be in the ocean.
Well, I think that when I was listening to the interview with Charles Barkley, he was ready to go a few years ago.
Mm.
Yeah, he just, I mean, Charles Barkley is in his in his 60s now. And they signed him for 10 years. He's going to be in his 70s. And you can be a broadcaster for a long time. God bless guys like Harry Carey, who just ride it out, and the Phil Rizzutos of the world, and the Hubie Browns, who's still doing it. Love to hear those legendary voices. But those guys have been on the air for 20 years. And we're selfish as listeners, and hopefully, we have that kind of run where people are still willing to listen to our perspectives and viewpoints about the game, and reporting and being on Bottom to the Top Sports and wherever we may land. But they've done it for a long time, and change is imminent, and sometimes we get so used to things. And listen, Charles Barkley, Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith, and Shaq won't be hurting for anything. And it may be a great thing because that's going to open up new opportunity for some younger, fresher perspectives that are different and new and engaging. And some new superstar may emerge as a anchor and a color commentator and a reporter. And there's some young up and coming people that do a great job. And while I'll miss those guys, I do think that there's a time and a place where the changing of the guard inevitably will happen. And I want to embrace it. And I want to salute those guys for however long they have. And I'm going to support them. And I think that we should send them out the right way if they're going to choose to step away, because they'll get offered contracts at those new jobs. Because think about this, all of those people got laid off from ESPN last year. We got over it. You know, we love hearing Mark Jackson on the airwaves. We love hearing Jeff Van Gundy, and those guys aren't on anymore.
Yeah.
And let me ask you another question. What did you think about Skip Bayless with all of the controversy when him and Shannon Sharp was on? They let him go, man. They finally parted ways with Skip Bayless.
Well, I mean, all right, I don't want to sound too harsh, but it's like Skip kind of exposed himself a little bit there. You know, you know, if you look at the comparison with Skip and Shannon, they worked together, and then, they kind of parted their ways. And, Shannon really jumped out the window with Shade Room. And then, like he got
Club
one of
Shay Shay, yeah.
Club Shay Shay, excuse me. And he got one of the biggest interviews on the come up with Cat Williams that started so much controversy, which literally put him almost at the top of the chain when it comes to like sit down interviews,
Yeah.
like and podcasts. Like out of nowhere, he was bam in the top 2, top 3. So, kudos to him. But, hey, Skip, man, I loved Skip. I always was a fan of Skip's, but I just think, once they start battling and they start talking to, the fans start getting involved, and then the fans start saying, well, Skip, where'd you play? And what'd you do? And what'd you accomplish? Comparison to like a Shannon, and it kind of put people in a position to choose sides. That's
Yeah,
where it started.
and then you got to just look at the fact that they just tried to pair Skip with so many people. You could see that the show wasn't getting the ratings, and Skip didn't have the same appeal. And again, Skip is a little older. Shannon is in fantastic shape, and he's got this appeal, and he's got the southern accent, and he's got a distinct personality that he really plays to. And on top of the fact that he's got that gold jacket, and he's a Hall of Famer. So there's credibility. Obviously, his brother played in the NFL, um, and to separate the fact that there's no more Shannon and Skip was on his own, or at least separate from that podcast. I just think that with ratings and with Skip being somebody who's been on air for a long time, I think they just felt like it was time. And it wasn't like Skip didn't give him some ammo because he was always controversial.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just something that kind of played itself out. Now let me ask you, Al, on the heels of Summer League, and now we're in the midst of TBT, and we look at the women's game thriving. What do you think about the fact that at one point, if you could think back far enough, there was no sports in the summer, and we literally had to shift and just say, okay, we're going to watch the U.S. Open. We're going to watch baseball, uh, you know, summertime baseball, and it was America's pastime. And we literally had to wait a whole season just for October to come around to have the NBA preseason. Now you got the EYBL on TV, you got the NBA app, and you got some of these college international games on TV, and you got street ball on TV, games at Dykeman and Clash TV. Basketball, I would say, is the one sport that never stops anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is? And obviously for those soccer fans, soccer is the number one sport in the world, and soccer is always being played in some country, right? And if you're a soccer fan, you know you can always catch a international soccer game somewhere on the higher channels, uh, on your cable TV or streaming somewhere. But basketball has caught up to soccer with respect to being a global game. Obviously, we know what David Stern has done in terms of penetrating the international market. Do you feel, as a basketball fan, now basketball has closed that gap, and you feel like there's always something you can turn to in terms of basketball all year? And how do you feel about that?
I mean, as a former ball player and fan, I love it. You know what I mean? We got basketball all year round. But I mean, when it comes to the reality of it, when you want to be great at something, it can't be seasonal.
Okay.
You have to do it constantly. You have to do it every day, and you have to be consistent. So it doesn't surprise me when these guys are getting millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, and I, hey, I think it's a beautiful thing. Especially, you get a chance to see the pros. You get a chance to see USA basketball. You get a chance to see high school students. I love it.
Well, here's the other side, El. Some of the people and the detractors and pundits would say, "Oh, it's too much basketball. These kids are playing too much. That's why we have so much injury." And now you see people starting to focus their injury on recovery and you know supplements and the way people are eating and studying sleep patterns and what's the mental health side of playing so much. And kids are not playing other sports, and it's overkill. What do you say to those people who think that kids are just playing too much and they're starting too young and there is no diversity in sports, not diversity in terms of ethnicity, diversity in terms of kids not playing more than one sport? Um, what do you say to the people that says it's just too much? You should have a chance to do something else, especially for young people.
Well, that goes back to parents. You
Okay.
have some parents who, they look at their children, they say, he's still a child. Let him play his video games. Let him hang out and, eat his junk food. Yeah, but when you want to be great and you want to accomplish something, you have to sacrifice. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and with that being said, I think, like I said, it's a wonderful thing that basketball is all year round and it's not seasonal because, these kids are making hundreds of millions of dollars. So if I got to sacrifice for 7 years to change my bloodline for 50 years, I think it's totally worth it. So I give kudos to all of the programs and different activities that's going on to keep basketball going.
I'm going to give you a first-hand account. I currently have a nephew. A big shout out to DJ. Remember the name, but he genuinely loves the game of basketball, and he genuinely loves to play it, watch it, train, compete, and everything about the game of basketball. It makes me nervous, and I do not work with him currently because my brother, uh, his father, is all in, and he takes him to his games and takes him to his training, and he trains him himself, and he just loves it. And it makes me nervous because I want him to be a well-rounded young man and choose the game at an age when it's going to stick. And I don't want him to, do too much too soon. So I could see both sides of the fence where my brother says, "Hey, I got a kid who genuinely loves the game and wants to, you know, play it, and he wants to nurture that." And I can see the people who are on the side that I said, just have fun and be young. And if you get to the age where you're good enough and you love it enough, let's get after it then. But let's set a foundation that.
Big shout out to DJ and D Jones. Hey, we got to shut it down.
Oh man, big shout out to everybody who supports us. D Jones, Jerry Ice City Legends.
Big shout out to everybody who support. Like E said, log on to our BCom TV. on YouTube. Check us out. Our feeds on IG. Hey, but the biggest shout out go to the man upstairs that opened doors no man can close.
Peace.